It's emotional. I mean, I love the city. I've always loved the city. I love sharing it with my boys,
With
and
decades of
I
ties to
love
the
that my
Big
brother's
Easy,
here and
Cindy
so many
Creasy
friends I've
makes
had for
several
30
trips a
some
year to
years.
New
And
Orleans, including for this New Year's Eve with her family.
we watch the fireworks over the river off of the barges, and it's just gorgeous.
She says her adult son went to Bourbon Street after the fireworks and left about 20 minutes before the attack happened that left at least 15 dead and dozens more injured.
I am so incredibly thankful that he made it home.
The FBI says a 42-year-old Texas man killed in a shootout with police was responsible. It's being investigated as an act of terrorism. Creasy says she hasn't gone back to the scene, but still found herself close to the aftermath, as the Airbnb investigators believe the suspect stayed at is 4 blocks from her.
It's really quiet here today. Really sad. New Orleans is such a great city.
Was the offender acting alone? Were there conspirators involved?
As to what those investigators are looking for, former FBI agent John Wyman says it's twofold. Wyman worked over 20 years with the agency, primarily in counterterrorism, and while not able to speculate on the specifics of the attack, broadly speaking, he says the first angle is making sure there's no more active threat and gathering every detail about what took place, which can be challenging in the early stages.
You're trying to filter through what's accurate, what's not, what can be corroborated.
He says what usually is the toughest question to answer and takes the longest is why the attacker did what they did.
Right? How did they move from the idea of whatever the motivator was? It could be personal grievance, it could be an ideological reason, whatever. How did they move from that thought to action?
Well, the second angle is what lessons can be learned from this, how future attacks could be prevented or potential attackers caught before they can act.
It's always really important to take a good close look at what went well, what didn't go well, and how do we improve that in the future.
To that end, Wyman says similar to how 9/11 led to See Something, Say Something, the FBI recently launched a website with information about how the public can help identify potential mass attackers.
So the earlier we can identify some of those concerning behaviors, those warning signs, get people to recognize and report it, the more likely it is that we're able to, stop these events from occurring.
And back down in New Orleans, it's a mantra Creasy echoes.
And everybody was getting along wonderfully. Nobody was acting crazy. And to hear this and to know that you're that vulnerable, it's a wake-up call.
And Creasy adds she hopes that New Orleans isn't given a black eye through all of this, and then it can go back to being the great city that she's known for decades. In Richmond, Cameron Thompson, CBS 6 News.